Laboratory evaluation part 2. Okay. So, for the test for hemostatic functions, we will have your platelets. Okay, platelet function test, platelet activation markers, clot-based screening test for coagulation disorder, coagulation factor assay, fibrinolysis assays, okay, global coagulation assay, and your genetic testing for hemostatic disorders. First, your platelet function test. This is designed to detect qualitative, okay, platelet abnormality. So qualitative platelet. Okay, it in patients with mucocutaneous bleeding symptoms. So the quality of your platelet. Okay, the platelet count and the blood film review are prerequisite to rule out thrombocytopenia in order for you to assess your qualitative platelet function test, meaning the quality of your platelet as to its function. So again, let's go back to your function of your platelet. So we do have core function of your platelet adhesion, okay, adhesion, activation, secretion, and then aggregation. Okay, so those will be assessed as to your qualitative platelet test. Okay, abnormalities are suspected when only the platelet count exceed around 50,000 per ml and bleeding symptoms persist, meaning you should need to remove the possibility that the patient has a thrombocytopenia, meaning low platelet count, as to bleeding, and relate this signs and symptoms to the functionality of your platelet. Okay, so again, this is a photomicrograph of your platelet as to the normal appearance, okay, and after being activated during injury. So what are the usual platelet function tests that we utilized? Okay, we do have your bleeding time test, platelet aggregometry, von Willebrand factor activity assay, heparin-induced thrombocytopenia assay. So first is your bleeding time. So now no, this is obsolete, meaning it is no longer being done in laboratories, and it was originally tested for platelet function. So this was the first test to be utilized in order for us to assess platelet functionality. And now, no, we don't utilize this anymore due to some factors. So later we will enumerate why did we not utilize this anymore. Okay, involve creating a small puncture wound and timing the bleeding duration. This was first described by Duke in 1912 and later standardized, okay, in around 1941 and 1976 with various devices such as with your IV method. So how is the procedure done? So a controlled puncture wound was created using a lancet. So you could utilize the modified Dukes, the Dukes method, the IVs, okay, the Lee and White. So you can utilize the usual lancet that you need, or even you can utilize the feather lancet. Okay, so the duration of the bleeding was recorded and compared to the reference interval of around 2 to 9 minutes. Okay, so historically, yan, it was introduced by Duke, okay, modified by IV. Meckel at 1969 standardized the depth of incision using a lancet template, and the pressure cuff inflated to 40 millimeter mercury. So this was the modification as to the lancet type with the use of your feather lancet. And 1976 introduction of the surgical bleeding time device, a calibrated spring-loaded lances for consistency, a consistent incision. So the depth was already modified, okay, and standardized. But again, due to some various factors, this test is not standardized again. Okay, so insights, so clinical insights, prolonged bleeding time was associated with von Willebrand disease. Okay, platelet function disorders such as your Glanzmann thrombasthenia. Your Glanzmann thrombasthenia is associated with decreased GP2B3A, okay, and vascular disorders such as in your scurvy and vasculitis. Also, aspirin and your non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs were thought to influence test outcome since, again, your aspirin and NSAID affects the cyclooxygenase. Okay, and in cyclooxygenase, it disrupts the platelet function. That's why aspirin and NSAID could cause variation in the result. Surgeon used bleeding time to predict surgical bleeding, but this was later disproven, okay, due to some limitations. And here are your limitations. Non-platelet variable, for example, such as your intercapillary pressure, skin thickness, and wound size. So that's why this could significantly affect the result. So ano-ano yung mga yun? Intercapillary pressure, possibility of the patient that has a higher blood pressure could have a decreased bleeding time or increased bleeding time depending on the situation. Okay? On the skin thickness, if you do have a callous hand or callous fingers, it could also cause variation in the depth of the puncture. No? Pag makalyo, makapal masyado yung balat. Okay? Imbes na tama lang yung size, no? Mas kailangan mas malalim yung puncture na kailangan. And there is no standard depth when it comes to the skin puncture and wound size, no? Kaya nga we do have two methods. We do have the usual lancet type and the feather lancet as to the incision or puncture made by the technology. So that is one, okay, limitation of this test. And due to that, no, we discontinued it. And studies in 1990s demonstrated that bleeding time lacks predictable value, okay, for diagnosing platelet dysfunction or surgical outcomes due to, again, okay, it varies from patient to patient and it was not standardized. It's not a standard medical procedure or diagnostic procedure that we have. Okay? Affected by skin thickness, wound size, and other non-platelet variable leading to poor predictive value, okay, for clinical outcome. And the bleeding time test has been replaced with more accurate standard methods like your platelet aggregometry and Lumi aggregometry for assessing your platelet function. Again, due to also no the technology's timing could also affect the bleeding time. Okay? Okay, next is your platelet aggregometry. This is a modern method assessing your adhesion, aggregation, and secretion properties of your platelet. And through these three main approaches, we could assess it. So, platelet-rich plasma aggregometry, whole blood platelet aggregometry, and your platelet Lumi aggregometry. So, ano nangyayari dito? So, they observe the aggregation properties of your platelet with the use of reagents or agonists. Okay, so this is a sample of your platelet function test using optical aggregometer wherein, okay, you do have a steering rod, okay, your platelet suspension, and then the light source and the photodetector. So you could check, okay, the possibility, absorbance, turbidity of your suspension, okay, and then the steerer has the function to move or to mix the sample and observe the aggregation of platelet, meaning that if there is an aggregation after inducing, okay, reagents such as your restositin, okay, they will deem that functional, okay, and so on for those other agonists. We will mention it later. Okay? So, first is your platelet-rich plasma aggregometry. Okay? Wherein it utilizes light transmittance aggregometer. Monitors aggregation in PRP by measuring changes in light transmittance as your platelet aggregates. So during aggregation, your light transmittance will be decreased. Okay, again, we go back to here. So as to the blockage, yan, for example, nagkaroon na ng aggregation of platelet, you will block the light. And the light transmitted will be decreased. So the transmittance of your platelet, okay, will have a decrease. And it is related to your platelet function. For a while. So there would be decreased light transmittance, and that is directly proportional as to your um, platelet function. Okay, so agonists such as your adenosine diphosphate, collagen, and thrombin are added to induce aggregation. So what is being assessed during this time? So the ADP assesses the secretion properties of your platelet. As for the collagen, okay, the adhesion property, and the thrombin is in the aggregation phase or activation. Okay, that are being assessed. So if ever that there is aggregation on ADP, we could say that the secretion, okay, and the activation phase is active and functional. As to the collagen, the adhesion property or the adhesion function of your platelet is functional. Okay, and as to the thrombin, the aggregation function. Okay, so diminished or absent aggregation indicates platelet dysfunction to specific process. Okay. Next is full blood platelet aggregometry. So it utilizes, okay, measures the aggregation by electrical impedance. So same as with your um, cell counting, okay, using your electrical impedance. As to the larger the particle, it will have a larger electrical disturbance, and it will induce or it will signify that there is presence of aggregation as to the platelet. Okay? Platelet adhere to the electrodes during aggregation, causing the rise in impedance, okay, and recorded by the instrument. So the larger the aggregation, okay, the larger the electrical disturbance. And suitable for immediate testing with whole blood diluted in saline suspension. So this is the setup. So they do have an electrode. Okay. So the platelet will aggregate into the electrode. So the electrode contains the agonist. Okay. And disturbance in the electrical signal, since there would be aggregation or particles that are largely adhering to your electrical electrodes, will disturb or decrease the um, electrical current produced. Okay, so that is also directly proportional with your function of your platelet. Okay, next. Platelet Lumi aggregometry combines aggregation and secretion analysis, measures ATP release from platelet-dense granules using luciferin and luciferase chemiluminescence reaction. And it provides definitive data for diagnosing conditions with platelet secretion defect. So ano nang meron dito? So it utilizes naman chemical reaction as to the activity of your platelet. So how does this is being done? So for Lumi aggregometry, okay, this is a tracing of activity illustrate the monophasic aggregation. So there would be a decrease in electrical impedance, okay, and there would be an increase in release of your ATP, which is being assessed by chemiluminescence. Okay, there would be a chemical reaction. leading to light production. Okay? And the electrical, again, it is it is assessed together with electrical impedance. The decrease in electrical impedance would note that there is already process of aggregation. So here are your agonists. Okay? The final concentration, aggregation, your reference interval as to electrical impedance, and the ATP secretion. Okay. So platelet agonists in aggregometry, so used to activate specific platelet pathway, each revealing a distinct abnormality. So depending on what you need to elicit or what function you need to assess as to the platelet function, you need to have a specific agonist. For example, you do have your thrombin or TRAP. Okay? It induces full secretion but may cause brain formation. So TRAP avoids coagulation artifact. Okay? So here, what is being assessed is full secretion only. Okay? Full secretion and fibrin formation. Next, ADP, the usual one that we utilize, or your adenosine diphosphate. Most commonly used at induces biphasic aggregation curve at specific concentration. And it utilizes, assesses, okay, platelet secretion and activation. For epinephrine, it matches your ADP effect but ineffective in certain disorder and whole blood aggregometry. So it needs to have okay platelet rich plasma as its sample, and okay, it also assess your secretion and activation function. Your collagen requires an intact membrane receptor. Okay, loss of response indicate membrane or eicosanoid pathway issue wherein your collagen, okay, will predict the functionality as to the adhesion function of your platelet. Okay, and the arachidonic acid assesses eicosanoid synthesis, okay, affected by your aspirin or your NSAID, wherein this is as to the platelet secretion and aggregation. For restositine, it assesses GP1B95 complex in association with your von Willebrand factor. So it is related as to your platelet adhesion. So this is the assessment. So for example, on the platelet aggregometry response as to ADP, for example, there is the resting platelet on the baseline. So baseline, na may naglagay ka ng platelet suspension, then you induce the agonist. For example, the ADP was added in this time. Okay? And then there would be a shape change. Okay? And there would be an aggregation, platelet aggregation and secretion, decreasing your either electrical impedance. Okay? The electrical impedance is decreased due to the aggregation of your platelet or even the light transmittance. Okay? Then as the platelet aggregates, there would be also a definite decrease. Okay? And as to this assessment of your functionality as to the ADP agonist, it is positive or increased, which is usually normal. Okay? So here is your platelet aggregometry and their target mechanism. Okay? So again, thrombin is for release, okay, and adhesion. And so on. Okay? So the clinical application of platelet aggregometry, diagnosis of platelet function disorders such as your von Willebrand disease, Glanzmann thrombasthenia, okay? Monitoring effect of antiplatelet therapies specifically to the function, okay, as such as your aspirin, clopidogrel, and your non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Okay? Used in both diagnostic laboratory and point of care testing, specifically in the monitoring of your therapeutics. Okay? Next is your von Willebrand factor activity assay, wherein the von Willebrand activity analysis involves panel of quantitative and functional analysis. Okay? It is designed to assess the activity and function of von Willebrand factor, an essential protein in blood clotting. This test helps to diagnose various subtypes of your von Willebrand disease. So we will assess as to this the not the platelet function itself, but the functionality of your von Willebrand factor released by your platelet as to its quantity, the number of von Willebrand released, and the functionality of your von Willebrand. Okay, first we do have your von Willebrand antigen immunoassays. Okay, it measures the concentration of von Willebrand in the blood, not its activity. So they utilize the antigenic property of von Willebrand in assessing the number or the quantity of von Willebrand released by the endothelium and your platelet. Okay? So number lang ang chine-check ng von Willebrand antigen. How about your coagulation factor 8 assay? So here, this is indirectly related to von Willebrand factor, as von Willebrand factor stabilizes factor 8 and a crucial component of clotting cascade. Decrease von Willebrand can lead to reduced factor 8 activity. So here still the quantity is being measured and the functionality of the activation of your von Willebrand factor as to the utilization of your factor 8. So indirectly, if ever that there is increased platelet factor 8 quantity, there would also be decrease von Willebrand kasi it should be utilized by your von Willebrand. Okay, so indirectly proportional. Next, your von Willebrand ristositin factor activity, cofactor assay, or your von Willebrand RCO. This is measure functional activity of your von Willebrand factor. Okay, by assessing its ability to bind to platelets in the presence of your ristositin as an agonist. So ristositin is an antibiotic that induces platelet aggregation, mimicking your platelet aggregation. It is crucial in identifying von Willebrand disease subtypes such as your subtype 2A. Okay? So functionality naman ang ina-assess. Okay, dilute ristositin-induced platelet aggregation or your RIPA. Okay? Also known as the ristositin response curve. This test is particularly important for diagnosing type 2B. Okay, type 2B. So kung si RCO is for type 2A, ito naman type 2B, which is involved in gaining a function but mutation in von Willebrand causing spontaneous platelet aggregation. Okay, next is your manual enzyme link immunoassay, wherein your von Willebrand activity immunoassay or reads on your von Willebrand factor activity assay ELISA. It utilizes monoclonal antibodies specific for active epitopes of your von Willebrand, measuring the von Willebrand activity rather than its concentration. So dito naman, okay, we utilize the receptor of your von Willebrand, okay, to assess the functionality to bind with your antibody-induced reaction. Okay, the decrease on the decrease on the antibody would initiate or would suggest that there is good von Willebrand factor activity. Next, the von Willebrand factor collagen binding assay. Okay, Technozyme von Willebrand CBA ELISA or clot-based analysis. Okay, mimics the in vivo collagen adhesion properties of your Von Willebrand, assessing how well the Von Willebrand interact with collagen, which is important in the formation of your platelet plug at the injury site. So anong ina-assess natin dito? The platelet adhesion. So the capacity of your Von Willebrand to adhere with the collagen in the endothelium, adhering your or having your platelets adhere to its receptor. So what are the advantages of your ELISA? So both assays, Von Willebrand activity, immunoassay, and Von Willebrand collagen binding assay focuses on the Von Willebrand activity instead just the concentration as mentioned earlier, okay, na yung antigen, Von Willebrand antigen, okay? Providing more functional assessment. And this assay offer improves precision compared to the traditional methods such as your Von Willebrand Verstosten cofactor assay, making them valuable for more accurate diagnosis and monitoring of your Von Willebrand disease. Okay. Next is your heparin-induced thrombocytopenia assay. So here, sa HIT or HIT, okay, is a serious immune-mediated reaction to heparin which lead to thrombosis or clot formation despite the presence of your low platelet count. So, paano natin yung ina-assess? We utilize this, enzyme immunoassays and rapid tests. So, this test detects HIT antibodies and are commonly used in clinical practice for initial screening. They are not the primary method for assessing platelet function in HIT because, okay, again, this is only to detect the possibility of antibodies, okay? The presence of antibodies. So aggregation-based, aggregation test remains important for evaluating the functional platelet response to HIT, and usually this includes light transmittance aggregometry, okay, and even the washed platelet light transmittance aggregometry. So why do we utilize washed platelet? In order for us to remove the plasma protein that could interfere with the heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. Okay, because we are assessing the production of your antibody. Next, aggregation wash platelet Lumi aggregometry. So we utilize chemiluminescence to detect platelet activation in response to your HIT antibody. So we utilize now the chemiluminescence as to checking your platelet activity. Then full blood, we could also utilize full blood. Okay, but using of full blood is more integrated evaluation for your platelet response, unlike with your washed platelet, because again, your washed platelet would decrease the plasma protein and okay, leading to our a better visualization as to the formation of your antibody and okay, interference. Okay. Next, wash platelet carbon-14 or your wash platelet 14C serotonin release assay or SRA. Your 14C SRA is considered the gold standard for diagnosing HIT. Okay? It measures platelet activation and serotonin release. Okay. Release induced by your HIT in the presence of heparin. And the test uses unfractionated heparin as an agonist. The 14C SRA is regraded as both the reference and the confirmatory method for your diagnosing HRT. But again, however it is used is limited due to the need of your radioisotope. So kaya hindi natin to usually ginagamit kasi it is radioactive. The 14 carbon 14 is radioactive and is typically performed in specialized reference laboratories only that have permits to utilize your radioactive materials such as your carbon-14. Okay, sensitivity and use of your test. While carbon-14 SRA remain the most sensitive and specific test, we could utilize aggregation, lumiaggregometry. Okay, have to be less sensitive and largely discontinued. Okay, pero still, no, it could be a valuable asset to assess. And immunoassays and rapid tests are more useful for initial screening but cannot replace your functional test assays such as your carbon-14 in confirming your HIT. Okay? Next, your platelet activation markers wherein the platelet activation is a crucial step in thrombus formation and various cardiovascular disease. Okay? So, several biomarkers can be measured to assess platelet activation in its role to pathologies like your thrombosis specifically, okay, thrombotic stroke or coronary thrombosis. Okay, so what are these platelet factors or markers that we have? First is your platelet factor 4. So it is a protein released from the platelet during activation, and elevated plasma levels of platelet factor 4 may indicate platelet activation in conditions such as thrombotic stroke or coronary thrombosis. Okay, it is related to your antiheparin. Okay, so increased platelet factor 4 would suggest that there is also an increased risk for thrombosis. So platelet factor 4 immunoassay is available, especially your Hypen Biomed, okay, and can provide diagnostic or prognostic significance for various thrombotic disorder. So to prevent in vitro platelet activation during collection, the blood is often collected in your CTAD tubes which contain citrate, theophylline, adenosine and pyridamole. Okay? Next, you could utilize also thromboxane A2 and B2 as a platelet activation markers. So for your thromboxane A2, this is a potent platelet activator that is produced through the eicosanoid pathway. It has very short half-life of 30 seconds and quickly converts to thromboxane B2, which is the stable one, and this is usually the measured metabolite, okay, the B2. Okay? So the thromboxane B2 naman can be measured to assess platelet activation in vivo. Okay? But clinical assay for plasma thromboxane B2 have been challenging to develop due to the need of special specimen handling, such as collection in your CTAD tubes and extraction step before testing. So again, no, we are assessing the platelet release or functionality as to secretion of your platelet. Okay? Kaya medyo mahirap ito. Since again, the half-life of this is 30 seconds only for the A2. And for the B2, okay, it requires a special procedure in order for us to assess these parameters. Okay, next. We could also utilize urinary thromboxane metabolites. So the liver enzymes act on thromboxane B2, producing stable soluble urine metabolites, one of which is 11 dehydrothromboxane B2, okay, or urinary 11 dehydroxythromboxane B2. This is stable, so measurable and can be used as a marker for platelet activation. So after platelet activation, there would be um, degradation products or metabolites on your urine, usually this one, okay, to be assessed, okay, on the functionality of your platelet. So usually specialized reference laboratory offers immunoassay to measure this metabolite in the urine, and this assay have disadvantage since there is no special requirement for special specimen management and can be performed on random urine specimen. So the urinary 11 had dihydrothromboxane B2 assay can be used to monitor aspirin therapy. Okay? Detect aspirin therapy due to your aspirin again can disrupt the functionality of your thromboxane A2. Okay, evaluating the platelet activation in various thrombotic conditions. Next, your clot-based screening test for coagulation disorder. So, the clot-based screening tests, okay, have been essential in evaluating coagulation disorder, specifically providing valuable insight into functionality in the coagulation cascade. So this test utilizes principle of clotting time. So we are checking how efficient your clotting time is, okay, and the time from the initiation of clotting to visible clot formation. It reflects the condition of the coagulation system as to your secondary hemostasis. First is your Lee and White whole blood coagulation test. So your Lee and White, introduced in 1913, was the first procedure designed to assess your coagulation. And this test measured the time it took for blood to form a clot after being drawn into test tube. So a prolonged clotting time indicate a potential coagulopathy or coagulation deficiency. So this, while no longer used, Dali and White laid the foundation for many subsequent coagulation tests. So anong ginagawa natin sa Lee and White? No, we let the specimen to stand for 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, and assess if there is already clotting, okay, on a glass tube. So if ever that there is no clotting observed, okay, the person would have coagulopathy. Next, your activated clotting time. For your activated clotting time, a modification of the Lee and White test. So this was introduced in 1953, and it uses a particulate clot activator to accelerate the clotting process, making it suitable for rapid point of care testing. So kasi nga, di ba, for your Lee and White, we will need to wait for 15 to 20 minutes. And your activated clotting time is most commonly used for monitoring unfractionated heparin, okay? Particularly in high-dose settings such as your cardiac catheterization and coronary artery bypass graft or CABG surgery. Next, your standard clot-based coagulation screening test. So these tests are based on the same principle of clotting time and include the following, such as your prothrombin time or PT, your partial thromboplastin time or your PTT, fibrinogen assay, and your thrombin clotting time. So each test evaluates a specific part of your coagulation pathway, offering insights into potential clotting abnormalities. First is your prothrombin time or your PT. So the principle of your prothrombin time, okay, it measures the time it takes for the plasma to clot after the addition of your thromboplastin, which is your tissue factor. So this is usually a test for extrinsic pathway kasi nga this is related to your tissue factor induced clotting. So your thromboplastin or tissue factor is added and calcium. Okay? The reagent used often consists with the recombinant or affinity purified tissue factor mixed with phospholipid and buffered calcium chloride solution. So again, this is test for extrinsic pathway, PTX. Okay? PT is for extrinsic. Okay? nag-PT kasi break na sila ni X. Okay? Next, the principle for prothrombin time. So, mechanism, the tissue factor or your factor 3 activates your factor 7, okay, which then triggers the cascade of reaction, eventually leading to your fibrin polymerization. So, this result in clot formation, which detected using optical or electromechanical sensor. So, for the sensitivity, the PT is most sensitive to factor 7 deficiency and moderately sensitive to factor 5, factor 10 deficiency, and less sensitive to your deficiency of factor 8, 9, and 13. That's why, no? Better siya for extrinsic pathway evaluation. And it is usually useful in monitoring your Coumadin. Okay? The Coumadin therapy. Okay? Para matandaan to, si Coumadin, nag-PTCX pero cow pa din. Okay? Cow pa din, Coumadin. Yan. Procedure for prothrombin time reagent. The tissue factor phospholipid calcium chloride reagent is usually warmed at 37 degrees Celsius to mimic the human body temperature. So the plasma sample, a citrated plasma sample or your citrated plasma is incubated at 37 degrees for 3 to 10 minutes. So prolonged incubation beyond 10 minutes can lead to inaccurate result due to the degradation of coagulation factors, specifically your labile factors, okay, and other factors due to heat sensitivity. Okay, reagent addition. The pre-measured reagent is added to the plasma sample and the timer is started immediately. The time is recorded when the clot forms. So as to the clot formation, you stop the time. Okay? So this is the usual depiction. So again, your PT reagent contains factor 3 or tissue factor, which will initiate your factor 7, okay, in the extrinsic pathway, leading to activation of your common pathway for me that forms your clot later on. So the standard clot-based coagulation test, quality control for prothrombin time. We utilize controls such as your normal and prolonged control or abnormal control. So at the start of the shift or with reagent changes, okay, in order for us to evaluate the possibility of your controlled variations. Okay. Next, or reagent variation. Next, frozen or lyophilized control. So this must be properly thawed and reconstituted before use, and the control are placed in temperature controlled wells. And the test results are compared with the reference interval or therapeutic range for Coumadin. Kasi nga, again, your PT is for Coumadin monitoring. Okay, Coumadin is also same with heparin. Okay? Heparin. Action for abnormal controls. So if controls are outside the acceptable range, reagents and equipments and controls should be checked and corrected and retested, and all actions are documented. So reporting of PT results and the international normalized ratio. So in order for us to standardize the PT results, we utilize your INR. Okay, the PT result, okay, is reported in seconds with the reference interval included, and the INR or the international normalized ratio is used when monitoring Coumadin therapy to normalize PT result across different laboratories. So the INR is calculated from the PT result. Okay, and PT is the most useful or most utilized liver function test. Again, okay, liver function test. It is not your ALT and AST. This is the most accurate Okay, as to your liver function test. Okay, reference interval. The PT reference interval is computed based on the values from her healthy individual, okay, depending on the factors like type of thromboplastin used, laboratory instrumentation, and the pH of your reagent. That's why typically the reference interval per PT is 12.6 to 14.6 but may vary in facilities. Okay? Kaya nga tayo merong international normalized ratio. Okay? Your PT as a diagnostic test. PT is used diagnostically to detect condition that affects coagulation such as your acquired deficiencies, such as your DIC, okay? Liver disease and vitamin K deficiency that usually results in prolonged PT due to deficiency in factor 7. So how do we differentiate your liver disease from vitamin K deficiency using your PT? For liver disease, factor 7 has a short half-life, about 6 hours, making PT sensitive indication for liver dysfunction. Wherein your vitamin K, seen in malnutrition, antibiotic use, or in newborns, the PT is usually prolonged. In this condition, it can be differentiated from liver by measuring your factor 5 and factor 7 because, again, um, we could differentiate them with the use of different factors. Okay, so congenital deficiency as a single factor deficiency example, your factor 7, 10, or 5. Okay, the prothrombin deficiency result in the prolonged PT. Bakit may 5 dyan? Kasi nga at 10. Okay, and usually we utilize the 5 for the um, differentiation of vitamin K from the liver disease kasi this is included in the PT as to the assessment of your common pathway. Okay, fibrinogen deficiency, fibrinogen level of 100 milligrams or less will also lead to prolonged PT results. Okay. Bakit? Kasi nga, the common pathway is affected also. Limitation and consideration of your prothrombin time. So, specimen variability sa PT, results can be affected by factors such as your hematocrit, okay, tube filling, and specimen handling. Kaya nga, earlier, we mentioned your variation as to the hematocrit and it should be adjusted. Your anticoagulant should be adjusted as to your hematocrit value. Okay? Hemolysis and lipemia can interfere with optical PT readings. That's why, we reject specimen that has hemolysis. Okay? Therapeutic heparin. Heparin can prolong PT and this should be noted in the report. Okay, that's why if ever that the patient is taking any anticoagulant or anticoagulant medication, you should note that in your result. For example, okay, you have a result. Naka-note doon, the patient is taking heparin. O kahit hindi nyo makuha yung dose. Pero usually, kung makuha nyo yung dose, much better. Okay? So, thromboplastin reagents are often designed to be insensitive to heparin, but unexpected heparin effects can detect using your TCT. Okay? And your lupus anticoagulant or your LAC can prolong PT by neutralizing phospholipids in reagents, making PT less reliable in this patient. And alternative tests such as your chromogenic factor 10 assay may be used in this case kasi nga hindi siya ganun ka-sensitive with your PT. Next is your PTT. So your PTT naman, okay? The principle of this one is your partial thromboplastin time also called as your activated partial thromboplastin time, is used to monitor unfractionated heparin therapy. Okay? Detects lupus anticoagulant and identify specific coagulation factor antibodies. So, such as your anti-factor 8, and it is usually prolonged in most congenital acquired procoagulant deficiency except the deficiency of your factor 7 because this is assessed by your PT and your factor 13, okay, due to the lack of sensitivity for factor 13 on your PTT and PT. So principle, the reagent included is phospholipid derived from rabbit brain, but now it is synthetic form and particulate activators such as your silica, kaolin, ellagic acid, or phthalate, okay, is utilized as an activator. Wherein these activators provide a surface for activation of your factor 12 in the intrinsic pathway evaluation. That's why no, your PTT is used for intrinsic pathway. Okay? Your PTT, ay tandaan, TT is always in. PTT is always in. Kaya intrinsic. Okay? Yeah. Activation process, the activation induced a conformational change to your factor 12, leading to this activation. Okay, the form is a complex with prekallikrein and high molecular weight kininogen to initiate clot formation. So this complex activates factor 11, okay, factor 9, leading to the activation of the common pathway. Okay, so the procedure, the partial thromboplastin time, okay, the reagent is used is 50 to 100 UL of reagent of phospholipid plus activator is warmed to 37 degrees Celsius and mixed with equal volume of warm citrated plasma. Okay. So the incubation, the mixture is incubated for manufacturer specified usually for 3 minutes and addition of calcium. Okay, again, no, calcium is very important in the coagulation cascade. Okay, around 50 to 100 UL of calcium chloride with the molecular molar of 0.025 is added to the mixture to initiate clot formation. And the timer is started with the calcium is added, when the calcium is added. And the clot detection, the test is complete when the fibrin clot forms and the time is recorded and the result typically reported in second with the PTT reference. So same with your PT kanina, so your reagent, your partial thromboplastin will be initiating the intrinsic pathway over your factor 12. Okay? Initiating this cascade, okay? Ending up with your common pathway. Okay. So the quality control, of course, both normal and abnormal controls are present. And again, every shift or every new reagent, this is checked. Okay. The therapeutic range for unfractionated heparin monitoring, the abnormal control result should fall within the therapeutic range, which typically around 60 to 100 seconds, but varies depends on the reagent institution. So for the handling of reagent, it should be reconstituted and stored accordingly to the manufacturer's instruction, and abnormal control should prompt a check reagent equipment and retesting. So the reference interval for PTT may vary between laboratories depending on factors like reagent type, instrument, and local patient population. Typical reference interval is 26 to 38 seconds, but each laboratory must establish their own reference range by, okay, typically testing a sample of at least 30 healthy individuals and having the average of tempo. So the heparin monitoring, the PTT is standard method for monitoring your unfractionated heparin. Okay, a typical therapeutic range for PTT in heparin therapy is around 60 to 100 seconds. But again, it should be established and monitored locally. So as a diagnostic assay, your PTT is ordered when hemorrhagic disorder or recurrent thrombosis are suspected, or when autoimmune disorders such as your lupus anticoagulant are present. And deficiencies, okay, a prolonged PTT may indicate deficiency in one or more coagulation factors, specifically dealing with your intrinsic pathway coagulation. Okay. Okay, so factor 7 and factor 13 is not detected or not affected by your PTT. So inhibitors, okay, specific inhibitors such as your factor 8, factor 9, and non-specific such as your lupus anticoagulant can prolong your PTT. And conditions such as your DIC, okay, can prolong PTT due to consumption of multiple anticoagulants, but it should be confirmed using your D-dimer, okay, as specific for your DIC and platelet count. So your vitamin K or Coumadin therapy can also lead to prolonged PTT, but PTT is less sensitive to factor 7 deficiency. Okay. So limitation. So specificity, the PTT is not affected by factor 7 and factor 13. Okay. And interfering substance such as your fibrin degradation products and paraprotein can interfere with your results. Your LAC can cause false prolongation of your PTT without indicating bleeding risk. Next is your mixing studies. For mixing studies, the PTT mixing studies is an important diagnostic tool to differentiate between LAC, specific inhibitors, and coagulation factor deficiencies. So first is your lupus anticoagulant. So usually your LACs are IgG, okay? The targets various phospholipid protein complexes, and these antibodies are class of non-specific inhibitors that prolong the phospholipid dependent PTT reaction, which is typically used to monitor unfractionated heparin therapy and identify coagulopathy. So to enhance sensitivity, the low phospholipid PTT, okay, is used specifically for ALAC detection, as high phospholipid PTT is not sensitive for your LAC. Detection and risk. Usually your LAC is commonly found in 1 to 2 of the general population, and either of the chronic or transient form. So the chronic presence of LAC is traditionally associated with thrombotic risk, but a recent evidence also suggests that your transient LAC can contribute to thrombosis. So to distinguish these two, okay, repeated assay is performed at usually 12 weeks interval. Bakit 12 weeks? Usually, that is the timeline in the production of your immunoglobulin or your IgG specifically. Next, okay, specific factor inhibitors. Your specific factor inhibitors are IgG antibody against specific coagulation factor, most commonly factor 8. Okay, the most common affected factor is factor 8. And these inhibitors typically arise in patients with severe congenital deficiencies such as in your hemophilia following factor concentrate treatment. So the prevalence of your anti-factor 8 inhibitor is around 10 to 20% of the patient with severe hemophilia. And for anti-factor 9 inhibitor are found around 1 to 3% of factor 9 deficiency patient. So for the acquired hemophilia, in rare cases, autoantibody against factor 8 can develop in individuals without hemophilia, in particularly young women that are postpartum or elderly patient with autoimmune disease. And these autoantibodies can lead to severe hemorrhage. The initial prolonged PTT, when a patient presents with prolonged PTT, the laboratory first rule out the unfractionated heparin contamination by performing your thrombin time or your TCT. If the TCT is prolonged, okay, more than 30 to 40 seconds, so your unfractionated heparin is usually present and the specimen is usually contaminated. And if there we could utilize uh unfractionated heparin neutralization. Okay, if you have your UFH, it can neutralize your polybrine heparinase and the sample is re-evaluated for PTT mixing studies. So paano ginagawa yung PTT mixing studies? Okay, mixing with normal plasma. The neutralized plasma is mixed 1:1 with platelet poor normal plasma. If the PTT is correct, okay, return within 10% of the PNP, PTT or falls within the reference interval. A coagulation factor is deficiency. Coagulation factor deficiency is suspected. Okay? So ano yung sinususpect natin? Those who are involved with intrinsic and extrinsic. Kasi nga, your PTT is assesses your intrinsic and common pathway. Temperature-dependent inhibitor such as 15% of LAC and 95% of anti-factor 8 inhibitors are temperature-dependent. Therefore, the initial mixture does not correct the PTT. So the sample is incubated for about 2 hours at 37 degrees Celsius. So if the PTT does not correct in the incubated mixture, the laboratory may suspect specific inhibitors such as your anti-factor 8, okay? And an assay should be performed in order to confirm. So for the final diagnosis, if PTT corrects after incubation, okay, suspicion of specific factor such as your anti-factor 8 is confirmed and further testing is done. So if it's not corrected and the patient is not bleeding, you can suspect LAC. So ano yung ginagamit natin usually for substitution studies? Pag fresh plasma, again, plasma, since this is not clotted, all factors are present pag fresh plasma. Pag fresh serum, serum is already clotted blood. So ano yung again yung nawawala pagka nagka-clot? The fibrinogen group, which are your 1, 5, 8, and 13. Pag age plasma, age, ano ulit yung mga sensitive natin or labile factor, your factor 5 and 8. So wala sila sa age plasma. Pero pag age serum, dadagdag mo lang si factor 5 at 8. Okay? Okay? And even factor 2. Okay. The fibrinogen group and including si factor 2 pagka-age serum. Pag absorbed plasma naman, wala kang factor 2, 7, 9, and 10, your vitamin K dependent group. Okay, again, pag fresh plasma, lahat ay present. Okay. Pag fresh serum, your fibrinogen group. Pag age plasma, labile factors such as your 5 and 7. Pag age serum, fibrinogen group including your factor 2. And pag absorb plasma, okay, vitamin K dependent ang mga nawawala. Next, your TCT, thrombin clotting time. No? Reagent and principle, the thrombin clotting time measures the time required to plasma to form fibrin clot upon addition of your bovine thrombin. And thrombin the agent contains 5 NIH unit of your bovine thrombin, which cleaves your fibrinopeptide A and B from plasma fibrinogen, leading to the formation of fibrin polymers, detectable as a clot. So this test assess the fibrinogen level and can identify disturbance such as your hypofibrinogenemia or the presence of your inhibitor like your fibrin degradation product or unfractionated heparin. So yan, kaya si TCT yung ginagamit natin if we are suspecting unfractionated heparin. So the procedure, thrombin and plasma preparation, almost same with your PTT and PT. Okay. And the clot formation is you warm the 200 UL of warm thrombin is added to the patient plasma and timer is already started. And the time until the fibrin clot is formed. And automation, the TCT assay is available on coagulometers for faster processing. So saan naman siya nag-a-affect? So syempre sa thrombin, your factor 2. Yun yung ini-initiate niya, okay, to initiate the cascade from your factor 2, okay, going to your cross-link fibrin or the formation of clot. Kaya usually this is used for factor 2, factor 1, and factor 13 deficiency. Okay, quality control. So same with your PT and PTT. Okay, same with your PT and PTT. But here, abnormal controls should reflect moderate hypofibrinogenemia. Kasi nga, syempre, we are measuring the fibrinogen. And reporting of results, usually the interval is 15 to 20 seconds, but varies depends on the laboratory. And prolonged TCT can indicate presence of your hypofibrinogenemia, which is usually less than 100 milligram per deciliter, and antithrombotic substance such as your FDF or your fibrin degradation products, your paraprotein, your unfractionated hemoglobin, and your fibrinogenemia or dysfibrinogenemia can cause also prolonged TCT. So the reporting and results and clinical utility, before attributing to prolonged TCT to fibrinogen abnormalities, there should be ruling out of your antithrombotic substance such as your unfractionated heparin, your fibrin degradation products, and your paraprotein. Use in PTT mixing studies. So the TCT is part of mixing studies, okay, to detect your unfractionated heparin. Okay, and in factor 13 deficiency, this is not sensitive to deficiency, but we can utilize this to screen. Okay, factor 13 deficiency. Detection of the gibatran. Okay, this is a usual direct thrombin inhibitor. So the TCT is markedly prolonged with the presence of this drug. Okay. And okay, a TCT, normal TCT rules out the bigatran. Okay. Your plasma diluted TCT is modification to quantify your the bigatran and using calibration with specific drug concentration. Next is your Binome activated clot assay or Binome activated assay. So you have your reptilase time. Okay, it's necessary that uses reptilase, a thrombin-like enzyme, extracted from the binome of your Botrops atrox. This is a species of viper wherein it differs your thrombin in that only cleaves your fibrinopeptide A from fibrinogen, leaving your fibrinopeptide B intact. Okay? Whereas your thrombin cleaves both A and B. Okay? So it could assess your hypofibrinogenemia. Your reptilase time, okay, the specimen requirement and procedure. The procedure and specimen requirement are the same with TCT, and reptilase agent is reconstituted with distilled water and stable around for 1 month at ref temperature. Caution, though, because the reagent should be handled carefully and could be fatal if it would enter the bloodstream because it still contains venom. Okay? Clinical utility, insensitive to unfractionated heparin unlike your thrombin. Okay, your reptilase time is not affected by unfractionated heparin. And this is insensitive also to your factor 13 deficiency. Kaya we don't have a specific for factor 13 deficiency. Usually, your reptilase time is prolonged in this fibrinogenemia because again, your reptilase is related to the fibrinogen consumption or fibrinogen function. Okay? Usually prolong and it can rule out your unfractionated heparin in patient with prolonged PTT. Useful in distinguishing your hypofibrinogenemia from dysfibrinogenemia. So, prolong in your fibrin degradation products and paraproteins. Of course, it assesses the fibrin. That's why it could have a prolonged result for FDPs and paraprotein. Next is your Russell Viper Binom test. Okay. The binom source is Russell Viper Binom, comes from the Boya russelli, which is a viper species, and it triggers coagulation at factor 10. Okay? So historical use, the RBB was once used as an alternative to PT and was known as the Stephen Viper time. Okay? But it is now considered obsolete for that purpose. Kasi nga, again, it utilizes Binom and Binom is very dangerous. So the current use, the diluted RBB time is now used primarily to detect your LAC. And the test is prolonged by LAC, making it useful for LAC detection. Okay? If this could interfere with your clot-based testing, and we all mentioned that earlier. Okay? Specialized coagulation tests. So in addition to standard screening, various specialized tests are used to evaluate more specific aspect of coagulation such as your coagulation factor assay for individual clotting factor, your test of fibrinolysis, which assesses your clot breakdown. Okay? Your inhibitor assays, such as measures the inhibitor of coagulation, such as your antithrombin and protein C, reptilase time, similar to thrombin time but less sensitive. Effects of your heparin can be seen. Your RBBT, okay, or diluted Russell Viper Binom time. This test assess the presence of inhibitors such as glucose anticoagulant by measuring clotting presence in the presence of Binom from the Russell Viper snake.